Hello and welcome to the Snowflake Spotlight. I'm your host, Caveman Only, and this is a podcast series where I interview one unique Ironman in the old school RuneScape community each episode, diving deep to examine the intricacies of their unique Ironman account. Now, every good podcast has a supporting sponsor, of course, so today I'd like to give a shout out to OSRS bestinslot.com. This platform was created by a sole UK-based web developer as a personal side project that's now grown to receive over 250,000 hits in the last month. Before I even accepted this sponsorship deal, I'd used this site myself to gather information on what my best raiding gear setups will be here in the near future. All you have to do is enter your username, choose your combat style, and then cycle through each gear slot to determine what your best gear loadout will be. Also on the website, you can compare entire gear setups, pick and share your own custom fashionscape, and view different gear setups based on your budget for every single boss in the game. It's intuitive, safe, and completely free to use. So check out osrsbestinslot.com for all of their available free tools. Really useful stuff, man. For today's pilot episode, I've got a very special guest with me, someone who is considered by many to be the founding father of self-imposed area-restricted Ironman gameplay, Karamja Only. Karamja Only,
Hello.
how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, it's snowed for 2 weeks here, so I'm pretty much snowed in, but it's gone pretty well.
Well, that's good to hear. Sounds like you're snowed in and living the indoor caveman lifestyle, so I approve.
Yeah, it's not tropical weather.
Yeah, well, I guess you get to live vicariously through your Karamja Only account there in game. So,
The dream.
yeah. Hey, so thank you for taking your time out of your day to do this interview. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So, first of all, why don't you tell me a little bit just about your personal background without giving away too many details. So, where are you coming from right now?
I'm from Finland, the middle part.
Okay, great. I mean, obviously, I know we have a pretty large Finnish population in the community, especially the PvP community is pretty well known. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Now, how about your RuneScape history? So, when did you start playing the game exactly?
It was autumn 2003, first year of high school, not the American kind of high school, but similar.
Okay.
I went to the local library and I saw a friend of mine sitting there at the computer playing a weird-looking game. And I went up and asked what he's playing. And he forced me to make an account, and here we are, 50 years later, still going.
That seems like the classic RuneScape background story is that you get introduced when you're young, and then you get hooked forever, and now we're all still here. So, well, hey, we're happy to have you. So, now what about old school? Did you start old school right when it came out, or did you wait a while? How did that go?
I started like 30 minutes after the initial server got launched.
Oh wow!
Day one.
So we're talking like OG old school RuneScape player.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Now, I know that you made Karamja Only a bit later after the official Ironman mode was released. So what did you do prior to playing Karamja Only? What other accounts did you have?
I had my main account that I started on the day one. I played for it like a year or so, and for some reason it got banned for macroing. I did
for some reason. Huh?
Yeah, who would have known?
What did you get banned for?
It was Soul Wars.
Oh, so it wasn't even old school related. So this was from like way back in the day, like I guess 2011, 2012 when Soul Wars was pretty popular. But
yeah,
wow.
It was at the time when I didn't really play RuneScape anymore, so I just had a bot playing Soul Wars for me.
Oh wow.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Well, hey, I mean, I appreciate you owning up to that, but let's let the past, let's let bygones be bygones, and we've moved forward now, and obviously Karamja Only is still around. So,
Yep.
So when did you make Karamja Only exactly? Ironman mode came out in October 2014, and you made Karamja Only shortly after that, right?
Yeah, like a week, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So now, obviously, Ironman mode was a huge deal for the game and for the community as a whole, and it was very popular on its release. It still is, all these years later. So what motivated you to make a Karamja only Ironman instead of just making a regular Ironman like everyone else?
I actually had made, when Bodhi started his one-man army, I made my own unofficial Ironman.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, when they actually released the official mode, I wanted to have an account with the symbol and all, but I didn't want to do the exact same thing again. So I was thinking of ways I could restrict it or change it up a notch
Mm-hmm.
with all the Iron No Bank and other cool Iron Men. So I started searching for, thinking for ways I could add some weird rules. The first restriction I thought of was actually no consume. Yeah, didn't really
No
pan out.
consumables. So like no food, no potions?
Yeah, exactly. The
Huh, okay.
only the only thing I would have used were like the butterflies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
I don't
Interesting.
know.
I don't think that anyone has done that maybe in the history of the game. So that would have been quite interesting, but I think it's safe to say that Karamja only is a much better suited idea.
Yes, yeah, indeed.
Okay, great. So you've been playing Karamja only for over 4 years now. And I know I did hear you mention Bodhi's One Man Army series and Iron No Bank as some inspiration. Was there anything else that motivated you to make a Karamja only account in particular?
While the Pendants video series was fresh on my mind at the moment, so I was like, I wanted to have some area to myself that was pretty obvious where the borders would be and had a lot of content. So the
Ah,
first
right.
thing I saw was Karamja.
Yeah, I that's a point that I cannot empathize with personally because as a self-proclaimed underground exception only Iron Man, my rules are a little bit more ambiguous than yours. But um,
You make what you want out of it.
right, exactly. But yeah, Will Dependence, unofficial wilderness only Iron Man was also a pretty big inspiration for me making Caveman eventually. If you're unaware, Will Dependent started his unofficial wilderness Iron Man series, I think about 6 months prior to the release of Iron Man mode, and it was wildly popular. It was really kind of the only series of its kind at the time. Obviously, Bodhi had his One Man Army series that had just started that was kind of PvP oriented, but this was like an area limitation on top of that, which was really unheard of at that point. So that's cool that you had him as an inspiration for starting your account because I had the same one, including yourself, of course. So thank you.
Yep, of course.
So talk to me now about how you began your account. Did you plan the initial outset of your account when you started, or did you just kind of jump in blind and fake it till you made it?
When I made the account, I wasn't even sure if I were going to play it from more than a week or two. So I actually had
Wow.
a friend of mine give me a bond so I wouldn't waste a full month of members.
Wow, that is
Uh,
unbelievable.
yeah, I just wanted to have something else to do while I was fishing on my unofficial Ironman.
That is
And
unbelievable that you only had intended to maybe play the account for a week, and here we are, like 4 years and change later, and you're still going strong.
yeah,
Wow.
almost
So
5,500 hours in,
how many hours?
almost 5,500.
Wow. That is mind-boggling how much tedious grinding that must involve.
A few, yeah, yeah.
So I guess that means that you didn't really have a plan when you started. If you only planned to play for a week and here you are 4 years later, so you just kind of just made it up as you went along then.
Yeah, well, the type of Ironman I made, it doesn't really need that much of a planning. Like I do what I can on Karamja. It it doesn't really change if I add some stuff later.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. Now, for me and my account, I have a similar story as to how my account began. So, I was obviously inspired to make my account from you and from Will Dependent, and but I wanted to give myself a different kind of restriction that ended up being a little bit more ambiguous than I would have liked, honestly. But I've made it work. But when I initially started my account, I did some vague planning. Because I knew that obviously not every area in the game underground is interconnected, so I needed some way to try and get around that. So I had to do a few quests leading up to another slice of ham, which unlocked the train that leads between Keldegrim and Dorgish Khan for free unlimited access between those two cities, which ended up to being a really good thing to have. But aside from that, I didn't really do a whole lot of planning. Really, my one end goal for my account was to kill Cowfight Queen once, because I discovered that through the Dorgish Khan South Dungeon, you can actually enter the Cowfight lair through a secret entrance that I didn't know about, and it seems to me that not many people know this alternate route that doesn't involve going through the desert. And that was another one of the things that inspired me to make my account. But that was really it. Like, I planned on getting one Cowfight Queen kill and then, putting the account to bed. And, spoiler alert, we're still here. And, yeah, it's just kind of funny the way that works out sometimes. That your initial intention sometimes ends up leading somewhere that you never had really expected.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about one thing that I think is rather popular with Snowflake Ironman in particular. That is dead content. That's one of my favorite things about playing Caveman only, is just doing content that I wouldn't have thought to do otherwise, and basically no one else has thought to have played that content. For example, basically the whole city of Dorgish Khan it kind of feels like I'm playing a private server half the time, because I'm really the only one there. But in terms of dead content, what's the most obscure piece of content that you've found on Karamja?
That would be the Shiloh Village Hotel.
A hotel?
Yeah, you pay a guy
Okay.
100 GP, I think, and you get access to a room with a bed. Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. It sounds like 100 GP for a good night's sleep on a real bed in RuneScape. That's pretty immersive, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think it's a remnant left of the RuneScape Classics fatigue system, where you have to
Oh, right, the sleeping bag system kind of thing, where you had to, I guess, like sleep it off in order to recharge your run, something like that.
I guess it's like they just copy pasted it over when they made RuneScape 2, and no one bothered to change anything with it.
Wow, that is I definitely think that qualifies as obscure. Now, is there any like actually useful but obscure content that you've found on the island?
Well, it's not really obscure, but the Taibu When I Clean Up minigame is certainly not really a common minigame people play.
Sure. I mean, I've never played it myself, so what about that is obscure, and why is it useful to you?
Well, people do actually play it for the goat tuber, but
Okay.
not really the percentage favoriting no one cares about, and the brood victims in itself, no one does it to kill them, except me, of course.
Right.
But yeah, it's pretty dead.
Interesting. So how do these Brutu victims from this minigame help you?
When you use antidote or super antidote on them, you get twice the damage you do on them in Herblore XP.
Oh, okay. So this is an herblore training method for you then.
Yeah, the one and only. Well, it's not the only, but it's the meta one.
Right. Okay. And so, I mean, obviously people do the mini game for the gout tuber, especially Ironman, for the diary, and I guess for normal accounts because I think they're pretty decent GP as well. But
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be like one of the only people to be doing this for herblore training, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's at peak times Saturday. I get 10k XP per hour if I'm
Okay,
lucky.
that's honestly not even that bad. Now, you mentioned Saturday evening. Why is that in particular important for doing this?
It's because it's people that spawn the brutal victims when they are cutting down the bushes or whatever it's called,
Oh, okay.
and they when they are spawned, people just jump the world, and the brutal victims stay there for 30 minutes before they despawn.
Hmm.
So I jump around and clean the mini game of the brutal victims.
Okay, so I guess it's more beneficial for you to do this activity during peak times when there are more people in the area spawning the brooded victims. Therefore, you get more herblore XP. Is that right?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's I have tried a couple of times to do it during the weekdays, but I 1 to 2k at most per hour.
Wow, that's so that makes quite a difference then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that sounds pretty slow, frankly. Getting anywhere from 2 to 10,000 herblore XP per hour. Would you consider that your most difficult grind that you've had to do? What would you consider the most difficult grind you've had to overcome?
Well, the longest grind would be the joggers, 6 7 months of jogger killings. But
Hold on, 6 to 7 months of joggers.
yeah, for 99 attack, strength, and defense. I
Wow.
wanted to do it in one go, so I killed a few joggers. Yeah.
Wow. Now that is dedication, people. What did you say your kill count is, roughly?
About 140k, I think.
Wow. I mean, that has to undoubtedly be like the rank one Joker kill count in the entire game, no matter what account type. Like, do you ever see other people killing Jokers down there, or is it just you?
It's just me. I see people going for the herbs on the walls, but like
Mm-hmm.
never see anyone kill them.
Wow. So 140,000 Joker kill count for maxed melee. That is unbelievable. How many hours would you say, in particular, that grind took you across those months?
Mm. Oh boy. 1,300, I think.
That's
Something.
uh, that's more than a couple.
Yeah.
That's more than
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
That sounds about the same as my Slayer grind. I've been doing Slayer mostly through Vanica, but then once I reached level 75 Slayer and crafting to make Slayer rings, I started using Neve every 10 tasks for the point boost and then also the ability to get Kraken and Smoke Devil tasks. And I guess now Worm and Drake tasks that since Kebos has been released. But most of my Slayer has been done through Vanica, and historically, like on average, my Slayer XP per hour has been about 5,000 XP an hour. And so far, I think I've done about 1,200 hours of Slayer, and I've got another, I think, 200 or 250 hours to get to 95 to kill Hydras. So, uh, yeah, definitely no walk in the park, and especially killing the same creature for that many hours is really just unheard of.
Yeah. It's they are not that well. It's fun to kill them, but they are not really. The drops are pretty boring. Like mostly seeds, and I like collecting them, but I don't have a use for them. So it's like yeah, it's a grind.
Right. Okay, so but you enjoy killing Jokers.
Yeah. Not like I enjoy the grinding of melee stats, but yeah, greater demons are much better in my opinion.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, if so, that's obviously been the longest grind that you've done so far is the Joker grind for max melee. But what is like the most difficult or tedious or just like unenjoyable grind that you've endured so far?
The most tedious would be the thieving one.
Okay,
The
and what does that
one,
involve?
1 through 75 on right-clicking men.
Pickpocketing men
Yep,
from 1 to 75.
yep.
Yep, that sounds pretty bad. I do agree.
I think it took like say six weeks or so.
Wow, just 6 weeks straight. How many hours a day?
6, 7, 8,
Oh,
something
wow.
like that. Yeah.
Literally just log in, right click, pickpocket a man for 6 to 8 hours a day for 6 weeks.
Yep. It sounds worse when you put it like that, but yeah.
Yeah, that sounds objectively awful. But wow. So yeah, that's pretty terrible. But so you only had to do it to level 75. So what changed?
Well, at the beginning when I started pickpocketing, I were planning on going to straight to level 90 when they said that they would be adding Tsarhur pickpocketing to Model Rec
Mhm.
release. But I think before, when they did the first sneak peek in the Q&A, they said they would be adding gem stalls as well. So I was like, yeah,
Right.
that would make the grind a little bit faster. Yeah,
Oh, a little bit, I think. Yeah. So
yeah.
obviously the addition of Moral Wreck, I believe that was June of 2017 with the Inferno and then the expansion to the city. So they added the Czar her pickpocketing at level 90, but also the stalls. So talk to me about the different thieving methods that were introduced and what you gain from those.
Yep, from 75 to 82, I purely did the gem stall. And from 82 to 90, I did both the gem stall and the ore. And yeah, it was, I've never been so happy to increase the drop rate from 9K per hour to 25K.
Wow, I mean that's almost a 3 times increase. I mean that's not insignificant.
It made huge difference.
Yeah. Now, if I do remember correctly, there is a very rare chance to receive a certain gem while thieving from that new gem stall. What was it, and did you have any luck in that department?
They added overall, the stall has a 1 in 3 chance to make the gem cut, and it's 1 in 20K chance of getting an onyx. And 3 days after release, I got a cut onyx, so it's 1 in 60K.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I was the first one. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that have gotten it so far, but at least the first.
Wow. That is unbelievable. A 1 in 60,000 chance to get a cut onyx from that stall. That's I mean that's got to be one of the best RNG moments on your account, is it not?
Yeah, it felt really good, but I think the best RNG moment would be when I completed the medium clue, 3 back-to-back Karamja steps on 1 clue.
No kidding. So what I mean, do you know the odds of that? I mean, 3 back-to-back steps on the island has to be insanely high.
I think we calculated that getting a clue to being a Karamja step was 1 in 10 or 1 in 11. So 3 steps in a row amounts to about 1 in 1K or so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's obviously way better. Now, you said we calculated. Who is we?
Worth, the ultimate Karamja boy.
Ah, yes, Mr. Verf. I'm a big fan. He's if you're unaware, He's another pretty high-profile content creator in the old school RuneScape community, UIM Verf. He's working on maxing his main Ultimate Iron Man right now. He was one of the first to get an Infernal Cape on his main Ultimate, and now in the last few months, he started up a Karamja-only Ultimate Iron Man. And one of the things that he has discovered, as well as myself, kind of independently, but around the same time, was this method of clue juggling. So basically what's been determined, clue steps are not tied to one particular clue, but across a tier of clue. So for example, instead of getting one clue drop and then having to do steps, 1 through 4 or 5 in order to get a casket, what's been discovered is that you can get one clue step and say it's a Karamja step, which would obviously be relevant to you guys. So you get that step, and then before you start that clue, you juggle it. So basically you drop it on the ground. It lasts on the ground for, I think, 3 minutes before it despawns. And then you kill more harpy bugs, in your case, to try and get another clue that has a first step as a Karamja step. You do that 3 to, I guess, 5 times, because a medium clue can be anywhere from 3 to 5 steps long. And then, once you have enough clues to where you think you could get a casket, a minimum of 3 for a medium clue, then you do the first step of the first clue, drop it, go back for the second clue, do the first step of the second clue, and then the same thing for the first step of the third clue, and then you hope for a casket. And in that sense, doing clue scrolls, especially on an area-restricted account, become way, way easier. So have you had any luck in the clue department on your account so far?
Not to do with the juggling overall. I've been really close 3 or 4 times, but it's really, you have to prepare the whole day. You don't do anything else. You don't have plans. You gotta go
right.
the whole day until
just kill harpy bugs all day long.
Yes, it's the longest I did was 13 hours.
Wow.
One go. Yeah, didn't get the casket.
Wow. So how many Karamja steps did you get in those 13 hours?
That was 3.
Wow. So just 3 Karamja steps in 13 hours.
Well, to be honest, it was 2, since I always start juggling when I have 1.
Oh, right. Sure, that makes sense. So even worse. Great.
Yeah. I've been really close 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually up to 4 steps at one point. Then my father rang me on the phone, and I actually lost one of the steps.
Oh, gosh darn it, Dad.
Yeah, exactly. I was so angry that I started doing the 3 steps that I had, because I was about to go to bed anyway.
Sure.
And then I teleported to Tsar to pick out some runes and stuff, and actually don't remember what exactly happened, but I got too late to the clue scrolls to pick them up.
So they despawned.
It's a really good method, juggling, but it's so frustrating when you focus 10 hours plus full a day and you don't get anything out of it.
Oh, yeah, understandably so. Now, I haven't personally invested really any time into doing this clue juggling, but people have brought it up to me before and asked if I'm going to do the same thing on my account. And my priorities on my account are a little bit different right now, because I'm working towards raids at the moment. So I think at the time of this recording, probably about a month and a half out of raids before I'm like fully equipped with the gear and the stats that I want to not be a total deadweight when I go to raids. But it is on my radar. And, on the topic of medium clues, obviously the most useful item for me, if I were able to complete a medium clue, would be Ranger Boots. And I know, obviously, that would be very useful for you and Verf on Karamja as well. But on top of that, I have access to Cerberus, which is one of my upcoming grinds that I've already kind of started. Spoiler alert. But if I get a Pegasian Crystal, then that might incentivize me to try this clue juggling a bit more and kill, 100 million cockatrice to try and get enough medium clues to try and go for ranger boots. But that's a really distant, for me, pretty unimportant goal. But I know for you guys in particular on Karamja, first of all, you have more medium clue steps that are available to you. How many did you say?
I think about 12 or so. I'm not really sure, actually.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I thought. I was thinking maybe in the realm of like 7 or 8. But for me, in terms of underground steps, I think I actually have a smaller chance of completing a medium clue than I do a hard clue because of how few medium clue steps are underground. So
Wow.
the odds of me completing a medium clue are pretty small, even worse than yours, I think. But it's something that I'll consider in the future, but it's pretty low priority right now. So talk to us about this one particular medium clue that ended up going pretty well for you.
Oh boy, that like the best moment of the account.
Really? Would you really consider it the best moment?
Yeah. It in retrospect, the luck was insane. Like getting back to back Karamja is 1 in 10,000.
Okay.
Well, no, sorry, 1 in 1,000, 1K clues.
Okay, I mean, but still very rare.
It's really rare, yes. And then it actually was a 3-step clue is 1 in 3, and the reward was even better. One of the rewards was the green dragon chaps, and unlocks 1 additional step of medium clues. So it was 3 super RNG things in 1 clue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the best part about this is that for any other account, including Ironman, getting green dragonhide chaps from a medium clue is like most people probably wouldn't even notice because it's just considered a junk item. But for you and your account, not only does it unlock an additional emote clue step that happens on Karamja that requires green dragonhide chaps to be wielded, but it is also your best in slot ranged legs, is it not?
Exactly, it is.
Yeah, so that is a total game changer.
Yep.
Wow.
It will, since I now got easier access to Implinks, I will get the blue dragonhide chaps at some point, but it's in the future.
Okay. So obviously you've been through some really insane grinds. Not only the clue juggling that takes, hours upon hours at a time, which, hasn't amounted to anything yet. You've done the Joker grind, 6 to 7 months for max melee. You've done the thieving grind, 1 to 75 at men, maxing out at like 9,000 XP per hour. Obviously you have to endure a lot of like really difficult and tedious grinds. And in doing some prep for this interview today, I went back through your old Reddit progress logs, and I noticed that there was a pretty big gap from March 2015 to February 2016, so almost a year. Do you want to tell me what happened in that time frame?
Yeah, it's actually, I have a really good answer. It was this girl I was into.
Oh no!
World of Warcraft.
This sounds like XP waste to me.
Yeah, I actually did try to get her into RuneScape, but World of Warcraft was her thing. I enjoyed play, but
it could be worse. It could have been Fortnite, but carry on.
Exactly.
So that was it. It was just the girl that lured you away from the game for a whole year, huh?
Yeah, darn women.
Oh man, I knew it was gonna sound like XP waste to me. Okay, so it was more of a you just got wrapped up in that rather than being burnt out then.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I was burned out, but I didn't really have any. It was before I started doing the 99 grinds in one go, and I had most of the items that I wanted, so I didn't really have a goal.
Okay.
So it was in between the item grinds and the 99 grinds.
Okay,
So I
interesting.
didn't really know what to do.
Okay, so then when you returned to the game in February 2016, do you remember what you started off doing at that point?
Like almost immediately, I went to fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the middle, when I was gone, they released pets, and when I started,
Oh.
I was like, I want that fishing pet. So I did that until I got the pet, and I got it at 98. So I was like,
Oh,
yeah, sure.
might as well finish it off, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, speaking of 99s, what is your opinion on area restricted Ironman going to retrieve skill capes?
I don't, if it really changes something huge for you, sure. But if it's like the range cape, it just picks up the arrows for you, doesn't really change much. So I don't know.
Okay, so you're
Nah,
saying
I'm not
you disagree with my choice to go get the range cape then, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay, okay. That's fair. That's fair. That's respectable. I respect your opinion.
there are some of the perks that are really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess for some restricted people, it's game changer. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
really have to have a good reason for it.
yeah, I mean, I suppose, I mean, in retrospect, I guess I could have gone without the range cape, but I figured that it would really come in use for raids in particular, and the ammo saving
Oh,
effect. Um, it does kind of go against my philosophy a little bit, though, that generally I will only make an exception to do something, whether it's go to a different area or to retrieve an item, especially if it's on the surface, only if it unlocks a lot of content for me. So, for example, the Kebos Lowlands was just released a couple weeks ago, and that came with a new Slayer dungeon. Um, Obviously, it's its own entity and it's not interconnected to other underground areas, so it requires a bit of above ground travel for me to get there. But that unlocks so many pieces of content for me. It allows me to not have to skip lizard tasks anymore because I can now kill the sulfur lizards instead of desert lizards in the desert. I can get the dragon sword from worms. I can get the drake claw to make new best in slot range and magic boots from the drakes. And then I can also upgrade my penance skirt for range to black d'hide chaps from Hydra once I have 95 Slayer, and they drop the 3 pieces of the Brimstone Ring, which is my best in slot. So in that instance, I think that it's acceptable for me to allow time to get there on the surface in order to unlock all of that content. Whereas the range cape, I don't know. I was on stream in front of a couple hundred people. People were kind of pressuring me to go and get it, so I think I might have succumbed to peer pressure there to go and get the cape. Because at the end of the day, all it really does is save me a little bit of ammo and make it a little bit more convenient for doing bossing and stuff. But I definitely commend you for staying true to your rules and not bending them for something as trivial as a skill cape. But you can get one cape, right?
oh yes, I already have it.
And which one is that?
Agility.
Oh man,
Yes.
99
Best.
agility, Brimhaven dungeon only, by the way.
Yes.
So does that skill cape do anything for you in particular? Like what's the skill cape perk?
It acts as a graceful cape, which doesn't really do anything for me since I don't have the full set. But once a day, it restores 100 energy and it acts like a dose of stamina potion. So
Oh, that's
it's
not bad.
I've used it when clue juggling, when I've attempted to finish the clue. It really helps.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, plus, since you have several 99s, how many do you have, by the way? How many 99s?
8 or 9, I think. Not
Okay, and
sure.
do you know them off the top of your head?
Attack, strength, defense, range, HP, thieving, mm,
Agility.
fishing, agility, fishing, and cooking.
That is 999s, my friend. That is pretty impressive.
Yeah, the amount gets lost
Must be nice to have been playing your Snowflake for so long that you can't even keep track of how many 99s you have, huh?
Yep.
Well, hey, that's I mean, seriously, huge props to you and the grinds that you've endured on your account thus far. It's seriously impressive, and you know, I consider you one of the founding fathers of unique Iron Man gameplay, especially area restrictions. You and Will Dependent. So, seriously, it's so good to see that you're still going strong after 4 years and change. Um, let's go ahead and move on to a new topic, which is that of game changes and updates that have affected the trajectory of your account. So one thing in particular, going back to Mr. UIM Verf and his Karamja Ultimate Iron Man, one thing that he's done for the Karamja meta lately is he's sent 2 different tweets to God Ash, on Twitter, and he has had plant pots added for farming and a teasing stick spawn added to the shore near the Grak on Karamja. What are your opinions on those changes, and how has that affected your gameplay, if at all?
Well, it's really nice to have more stuff to do. The fun thing with the plant pot is that I, like 3 years ago, actually got them to bring up the question on a live Q&A to
Okay.
add the plant pot to the farmer, but they were like, "Nah, this is only for restricted people. You do that yourself. Why do you want us to add more stuff?"
That's really
Yes,
interesting, because I've
yeah, so
I've had the same kind of feedback from questions that I've asked.
yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just Verf's charisma is better than ours.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
I'll have to ask him when he's on the podcast. But so, in your opinion, do those changes, affect the integrity and the difficulty of what you're doing? Like, do you feel offended by those changes, or are you okay with them?
I'm really okay. Farming, it's like it's a fun thing to do since we get the seeds anyway, but it doesn't add anything really. The
Sure.
fruits or that doesn't really do much,
Hmm.
and the hunting grind, it shaves off a couple of weeks. Instead of having to lamp to 60 hunter, we have to do 42, and then you can use the stick to 60. So it helps, but I don't think in time wasted in that way. So it's a nice thing, but it doesn't really change much.
Okay, interesting. So now Hunter, I know, is quite important for you Karamja only folks because you can bare hand catch implings. So talk to me about how this teasing stick helps with the hunter grind and what implings do for your account in particular.
Yeah, well, before I did Hunter, I did 4D construction with lamps. So I
Wow.
could move my house to Brimhaven. I didn't want to access the house even with teleports before that.
Sure.
So it was like a restriction, a punishment I forced upon myself. But the reason why I actually wanted a player-owned house was to make the workshop and the tool holder things on the walls, to grab myself the crafting molds for onyx jewelry.
Yeah.
But to make the tool holds, I need oak planks, and the only way for me to get it is from eclectic implings, which I need the 60 hunter to catch bare hand.
Okay. I mean, that is quite the grind. So how many? You said you lamped 1 to 40 construction. How long did that take?
I think about 60 months. I'm not
Wow.
sure actually.
That's I mean, it's just one grind after another for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
um, I
it's
just
my
I
life.
mean, yep. Welcome to the Snowflake life, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I just finished lamping 27 Hunter not too long ago. Not Hunter, excuse me, construction. I finished lamping construction to 27 just a few months ago, and that took me about 10 months. But I mean, 16 months for 1 to 40. I think you take the cake again.
Yep.
So that unlocks the crafting molds for you to make jewelry? Because that's something you can't do yet, right?
Not yet, no.
Yeah. But so obviously that's going to be really game changing, especially with the onyx jewelry. And we talked about earlier your luck from the gem stall. You already have a cut onyx waiting for you in the bank.
Yeah, been there for 2 years now, just waiting
Wow.
moment to shine.
Do you know what piece of jewelry you're going to make first?
I think I will go for regen bracelets. Or Fury. One of them. I'm not
Okay.
sure yet.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I just, myself, I just made a regen bracelet because that's going to be my best in slot forever for both melee and for magic. Of course, unless new content is introduced, which is a possibility. But yeah, that's very exciting. But you do have quite a crafting grind ahead of you still.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
To be honest, I don't think it will be that big of a hurdle. People whine about doing the blast glowing grind, but I don't know. It doesn't seem that bad to me.
yeah, I mean, regular Iron Men normies, if you will. It's just funny to hear people talk about their grinds, and then we have people like you who literally just take the masochism to a whole new level. So, if you're feeling bad about your grinds over there at home, why don't you just take a step back and let the professionals handle it? Because that is, I mean, your grinds are just literally next level. So, um, how much crafting XP do you have banked?
From all the uncut gems, if I were to cut them, I would get from 46 to 75 or something in one
Wow,
go.
okay, so that's about 30 levels banked there. So that puts you like pretty close to making like a berserker necklace at 82. I guess 75 would be the halfway point to 82. So how would you plan to
Yeah.
train your crafting from there up to the level you need for the Fury and the Regen Brace? Would you just do more thieving for gems?
No, I think I would do the glass blowing. But the fun part about that is I'm actually contemplating doing from the level I'm now all to 99 with just glass blowing, and I would leave all the uncut gems in my bank as they are,
Really?
just to trigger people.
I mean that is one of the things that is also great about playing a Snowflake Iron Man is that I don't know how much experience you have with this, but I know, especially being on YouTube and knowing the nature of the YouTube comments section, um, I feel like we have the power to personally offend people by the way we choose to play old school RuneScape. Do you feel that too?
Yeah, it's really, really. It's one of the best thing about being a snowflake, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
People just they can't understand why we do stuff the way we do.
Yeah, and I think it's so incredibly ironic. So the term snowflake, if you're unfamiliar, is basically the colloquial term that we in the community use to call unique Iron Man. A unique Iron Man is just any brand of Iron Man, regular, ultimate, or hardcore, with our own self-imposed rules and limitations on top of that. And the snowflake term was something that, I mean, as far as I'm aware, not to toot my own horn, but I initially called myself that and Caveman because I was a unique individual playing by my own special rules, and it was more of kind of like a self-deprecating humor kind of thing. Just calling myself a snowflake because it's really kind of a derogatory term, at least over here in America, to call other people snowflakes is kind of an offensive thing. And now it's just become like the colloquial name for unique Iron Men. And I just think it's funny that people who get upset at us for playing Snowflake Iron Man are really more snowflakes than we are in that sense. You know what I mean?
We are the better players of this game. Step
Yeah,
aside.
it's just, I'm not really sure why people choose to get so up in arms about the way we choose to play the game, because at the end of the day, we're having fun. And if they don't like it, then they just don't have to watch, or follow along. It's as easy as that.
Yeah, the worst thing I think is that people think we do this for the fame. It's we're pretty much a really niche community. Getting to the mainstream crowd, like Settle has brought us their latest weeks, but like, you don't get that much fame out of it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I did not start for to try and become famous. But I think that especially now that the Snowflake community as a whole is becoming more prevalent and more mainstream, I do think that there is an air of that kind of self-entitled arrogance coming to the community, just a little bit of people hopping on the hype train and the bandwagon to try and get famous from this. As Settled is of course doing with his Swampletics Morytania locked ultimate, as Verf is doing and killing it with his Karamja ultimate series, as I have done to an extent with my series. But frankly, I think that those people who enter the community for the wrong reasons, one, probably won't last very long, and two, other people in the community I feel like have a pretty good sense for that, and that if you're really here for the wrong reasons, you're not going to last long anyway, and I think other people can sniff that out pretty easily, and that's not what it's about. We're not doing this to get clicks or likes or to ask for other people's praise for our accounts. We do it because this is what we enjoy doing. And as long as you're here for the right reasons, and as long as you have enough dedication and intrinsic motivation to get through these grinds, then you're here for the right reasons. But yeah, I think that's really important. Okay, here's another interesting question. This is a viewer question that I got from Twitch during one of my live streams. I don't remember who asked the question specifically, so apologies. But the question is, how would the lack of XP randoms alter your specific playstyle?
Oh, that's a hard one. Well, at least it would totally lock out mining for me. And, well, I couldn't have made the adamant knives for Jad if that was the case. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah, I haven't actually thought about it, but the fire cape would have been really hard, I think. I would have to use bronze knives all the way.
Oof. Right, and I mean, it was already hard enough. You just said that you used adamant knives through the fight caves. What did your fight caves setup look like in terms of gear and inventory?
It was adamant knives, studded body, dragon plate legs, obsidian shield, and inventory was, I think, 8 Karamja ones and the rest prayer potions.
Wow, that's pretty scuffed.
Yeah, not the best of setups, I think. No.
Mm-hmm. And did you get your fire cape on the first attempt, or how did that go down with that gear and setup?
I was really close on my third attempt, but I finally achieved it on my fourth.
Okay, and you said that this was, when you got this fire cape on Karamja only, this was your first ever time killing Jad, right?
Yeah, first time in RuneScape history.
Yeah, that's, well, I mean, everyone's got to have a first at some point, but to do it with that gear on this account is honestly incredible. So do you know how long your successful fight caves attempt was?
It didn't say. It might have been because it did take too long, or because I passed the waves and logged out in between. So I'm not sure, but about 7 or 8 hours.
Wow. I thought my fight caves run was bad, and I think it took me about 3 hours with the bone crossbow, but that, my friend, is next level, 7 or 8 hours, and that's with adding knives. And as you just said, if you didn't have the XP lamps, you wouldn't have been able to train mining, which meant you couldn't have made addy knives, and you'd have to do it with bronze, which would be even worse.
Yeah, that would have been Wook's level stuff.
Yeah, seriously, wow, that is incredible. So I guess it's safe to say that that XP randoms, to an extent, are pretty important for really just Snowflake Ironman in general, but for you too.
Yeah, it's you don't think about what it's actually have given you until you until it's gone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, talk to me about your future plans. So, I think one of the questions that really begs an answer here, especially because Verf again has just released a video on his YouTube channel talking about his plans to attempt the Inferno on his Karamja Ultimate Ironman. Do you have any plans to attempt the Inferno in the future?
No, no,
No.
like no, no,
Okay,
no.
that is completely fair.
And
That is completely fair.
yeah, I'm really happy I actually did kill Jad.
Hmm.
It was the first time in my RuneScape history that I actually killed Jad.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Well, hey, I mean that's there's a first for everybody. I had no idea that that was your first ever Jad attempt on Karamja only. In terms of best in slot armor, do you have any equipment left for you to gain on the island that would be your best in slot? I know Implings open up a lot of content for you.
Yeah. I think, well, feasible items are the Obsidian Region bracelet,
Uh huh.
Fury,
Oh,
and
the jewelry, of course.
yeah. But except that, I don't think I have too much.
Hmm.
Blue Dragon Champ, the spiky red Vambrace. That's about it, to be honest.
Okay. Now I do know that you mentioned earlier that you were trying to complete a hard clue. Is that true?
Well, not to complete it. I just want one of the two coordination steps that are on Karamja that are not in the jungle or the shipyard
Oh,
to
okay.
kill the Caveman guard to try to obtain a air battle set.
Really? Oh, wow. So is that that's a quest NPC, isn't it?
No, the Clue Guardian.
Oh, the Clue Guardian. Okay, so you're talking about
Yeah.
for whatever reason I was thinking of the I don't know, the four-legged dog-looking thing from I think from Legends Quest. So never mind. Not that.
Oh,
But you're talking about the Clue Guardian like the Saradomin wizard?
yep. That's the one
Oh.
I'm
Okay.
hunting for.
So why is
So
an air staff so important to you?
it shaves 8 million tockles of my 99 magic grind.
Oh, that is no small sum.
Yeah. You see why I spent 5 weeks going for hard clues.
Yeah, wow. So was that recent?
Yeah, well, it's like Worth does the research. I'm like, yeah, I knew that. Let's do it.
You just play it off casually like you knew it the whole time and
Yep.
Oh man, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
I
great.
knew that you could duplicate spawn the Clue Guardians, but
Hmm.
I never really put one and one together to get actually try to grind for a air battle staff.
So how many hard clues have you picked up in attempt to try and get one of these coordinate steps?
180, I think.
Wow, and no luck so far?
Nope. Yesterday I got two Karamjas coordinations that are without of my reach.
Oh man. What steps are those?
The Legends jungle and the shipyard that you need to,
Right.
yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into the final segment here. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the growth of our Snowflake Iron Man community in the last 6 months. What are your thoughts on that? I would say that we're pretty much there. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
we're still a little bit on the lesser known side, but especially if these big content creators keep picking up what we're putting down, I think that says a lot. Um, do you feel that your progress has shaped the Snowflake community at all?
Mm, well, the foundation in a way, I suppose. And
I would certainly agree with that.
Yeah, and the progress log structure, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is absolutely huge. As I said at the beginning, your progress logs on Reddit and Will Dependence, unofficial Wilderness Ironman series on YouTube were really the inspirations for me to create my account, and I followed in your exact footsteps with the Reddit progress log format, and from there it just kind of went on. I created my YouTube channel due to demand from Reddit, really, and then beyond that, people on YouTube wanted to see streams. Now, I recall quite vividly, actually, because when I first started my account, I didn't share progress with anyone from my account for the first probably month that I played Caveman. But once I finally posted my first progress log, it was actually pretty well received for how overpopulated 2007scape Reddit is with memes. So I was happy that it was so well received, but I recall that one of the first people to reach out to me in game was actually you. You sent me a message, like a PM in game, and said, enjoyed it, keep up with it. And then eventually, a couple months later, that led to my first video being posted on my YouTube channel, which was awful, by the way. I really struggled to watch some of my first videos because the production value is so bad. But
It's cute.
I guess it's nice to see the growth, not only in my account progress but also in production value. But also on my first video, I vividly recall you commenting. Actually, let me pull it up here. Okay, here we are. So Caveman Only, episode 1, in the YouTube comments section. Here we are, Karamja Only. Your reply was said, "Looking good, man. Thank you, appreciate that." But then you said, "One thing I learned from streaming on Twitch a few times, people don't want to watch the skill grinding. It's better to save the streaming as a unique happening when you're doing something a bit more interesting, like when I'm killing steel dragons." Now, at the time, I was like, that is great advice. Like, I agree with that 100%. But somewhere over the last, almost 2 years, I decided to say never mind to that, and I decided to just pick up the streams no matter what I was doing. And it's crazy to see what is now come of that. So not to say that I'm dismissing your advice or anything, but I think that the whole moral of that story is that it's really about forging your own adventure. And although you and I have been doing this for like 6 years combined now, it doesn't mean that we know everything. Clearly, we've both just kind of faked it till we made it. And I think you can agree to that. And and I think that what we have done has largely resulted, or at least catalyzed, the process of creating this huge Snowflake Ironman surge in the community that we've seen. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're omniscient beings that know everything of what's right and what's wrong. So it's I just think I just look back on that comment fondly, because I wonder how different how different my life would be now if I had stuck to that. But somewhere along the line, I wasn't trying to be rebellious by defying your advice, but I just figured, why not? What's the worst that can happen? And now we're here, which is incredible.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. So, but I do seriously, I really do appreciate your support right from the get-go. Like I said, you were one of the first people who messaged me in game, and as I said many times, you were one of the inspirations for me to create my account. So to have your support and to reach out to me like that and just form that bond right away was what led me to where I am now. So again, thank you. Another question on the topic: how many people would you say have started up a Karamja only account in your footsteps? Any variety, not necessarily different types of Ironman, but just Karamja restricted accounts. How many would you say have started up?
Oh boy, that's a difficult question. I try to keep track of them all, but it's, well, there are probably a couple that haven't ever messaged me or anything, but the ones I know of, I try to rank in my clan chat so I can have a somewhat number. And with worth, it's 32.
Wow.
Can't speak.
That's
Yeah.
so that's like almost 3 dozen.
Yep.
That's a lot. um
Only
I'm,
one. Only two of us left.
yeah, well, that does seem to happen in this community. That I think a lot of people are attracted to the idea of making a unique Iron Man, especially area restricted ones. Especially now with the proliferation of Settled's Morytania Ultimate Iron Man series and Verf's Karamja series. But I think that a lot of people, kind of romanticize it. That it sounds really cool and they enjoy watching the progress, but as soon as they try the grind themselves, they realize that it's a little bit more work than what they had maybe
Yeah.
envisioned in the first place.
They only see the good parts.
Right, yeah, they only see right, exactly, and in forms of the Reddit progress logs, in the form of the progress videos. Really, the only time you see the really bad side and the grindy side is if you choose to stream on Twitch, or YouTube, I
Yeah.
guess. But does anyone really stream on YouTube? I'm not sure.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, most people really only get to see the highlights, and I think that is a first of all, I mean, it's a huge draw to people joining the community, but I do think that for a lot of people, it's short lived. But it's not necessarily about the initial surge of people. I think it's really about the people who do it and then stick it out and remain part of the community, because there are quite a few people who have really stuck out their grinds, and I'd say that the Snowflake Iron Man community now, even just in terms of the area restricted accounts, is probably in the hundreds now. Maybe, I don't know,
Oh,
I'd probably guess like maybe 300 of us or so, maybe more.
yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for people starting up a Karamja restricted account specifically?
I know that at least you and Verf are really good at telling people to plan it out,
Mm-hmm.
go for the end game. But I also think people need to test for themselves if they want to just go for it. It's one for me that was the best part. The no meta, just do what feels good and roll with it. That's for me that was the best part.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's great advice, and um, that's the way I initially started. And I think for Verf, maybe initially the same kind of thing, but I think that the difference, it being in the role of I like to call myself a C-list old school RuneScape celebrity. um,
Yeah.
I feel like just the over the months, when I get asked the same questions about how I start and how people should approach starting an account like this, it's made me have to come up with an answer to give to people in order to hopefully give them the best vision possible, and to help them stick with it. But I absolutely agree that it's not always about planning everything out ahead of time. I think it helps. For me personally, I'm a very goal-driven, motivated person in that sense. And so when I plan things out for myself, that helps me stay motivated to continue on with the grinds going forward. But that doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So if you want to, start your own Karamja Iron Man or your own underground sometimes Iron Man, you don't have to follow exactly what we did. You could just, it's all about just enjoying the game again. And it's not necessarily about, this is almost like anti-efficiency scape what we're doing,
Yeah,
because
that's the name for it.
yeah, because at this stage, old school RuneScape has been out for just shy of 6 years as of this recording, and people know how to play the game now to like the nth degree with tick manipulation skilling and efficient bossing, and as I like to call it, they're the EHPers, which compete for make-believe ranks on a third-party high scores,
Yep.
based on the max macro-efficient way to play the game. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of people who enjoy playing that way, being taking this this open world MMORPG and making it objectively competitive. And some people really like that. But for you, for me, and for I think most of the Snowflake Ironman community, I can't speak for everyone, but I think that part of the attractiveness to playing these types of accounts is that it's not about that. It's about just finding your own personal way to enjoy the game. And regardless of what type of account you choose to play, how many exceptions you choose to make or not, really it doesn't matter. Just as long as you enjoy the game, you know. Some people give me so much criticism, usually not constructive, about the way I've chosen to play my account, and you know, how did you do Tutorial Island if you're an underground Ironman? That kind of comment. But you know, at the end of the day, I understand that my account is not a perfect system. Even yours, even as pure as your account is. Obviously, you still did Druidic Ritual, and you bought the POH from the real estate agent to have access to the workshop in the future. But...
And I die like 5 times per day. So
right, yeah.
I'm frequent visitor to Lumbridge.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you take your winter holiday over in the Lumbridge Castle. So even even as pure as your account is, the point is that you pick and choose your rules, and in order to maximize how much enjoyment you get out of the game, because I feel like a lot of people really forget that we are just playing a game. And the whole point, the whole point is to have fun. Now, again, if you enjoy, playing for competitive ranks with EHP, or if you enjoy, PvPing and maxing that meta to be the best you can, like, that's great, just as long as you're enjoying it. But I feel like a lot of people have just kind of fallen into this mindset, this efficiency trap, if you will, that so many people play this way, especially, some high-profile content creators. Because I think it's kind of, it speaks for itself that whatever the community of content creators do kind of has an effect on the way the general player base wants to experience the game. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of fell into this efficient macro efficiency mindset of how to play the game, and they forgot that you don't have to do that. That there are literally an infinite number of ways that you can play and enjoy the game that doesn't have to be, making an Ironman account, getting 50 fire making, and then doing 50 to 99 fire making at Wintertodd straight away. Like you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it happens pretty often for me that some clueless Slayer noob comes to the greater demons and they crash me. Instead of getting angry and hopping world at the exact moment, I stay there to chat with them for a while, like we used to do back in the days. It's really fun to not take the game too serious. I don't think the appeal with the snowflakes is you shouldn't see it as the same game. You should see it as something else than RuneScape. It's a new game, new worlds. You just do what makes you happy.
Yeah, that's that is it to a T. It's literally just choose your own adventure, forge your own path, and like you said, it is a completely new way to experience the game. Just kind of like when Ironman mode initially came out in 2014, people saw the game through a completely new lens, and this is that same feeling, but takes it even further. And I think that's one of the most attractive things about playing this way. I think that's what's making it so popular now. And I mean, this is, especially in 2018, the latter half of the year, really saw a huge explosion in the community. We have our own subreddit now, Our Unique Ironman. If you have not checked that out, I will have a link for it below in the description. But the community has really just seen a huge exponential growth. And I think that what we were just talking about has a huge factor as to why that's happened. Because people, again, as we talked about at the very beginning, once you find RuneScape, you are here forever. You don't quit RuneScape. RuneScape quits you. And so if you're here forever, you might as well find a way to enjoy it, right? And I think that more and more people are finding that playing a Snowflake Ironman is the way to do that. So
yeah, and the daily stress, the daily life is becoming more stressful every day. So people are just seeking that time off wherever they can find it.
Right, absolutely. And, I feel like a lot of people kind of treat RuneScape as a job. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that, people. It does not have to be that. So yeah, Snowflake Ironman, choose your own adventure, forge your own path, play by your own rules. That's what makes it great. Let me ask you this. I know that you do make YouTube videos from time to time, and you also stream from time to time, but it's pretty infrequent. So do you have any future plans to share content more often?
Well, I really should get back into making the monthly progress logs. To be honest, I've been slacking 4 months now.
Well, I'm sure people will enjoy the marathon progress log when you do release it, but I think that
Yeah,
would be a good thing to do, to get back into the monthly progress log releases.
definitely. And I'm not promising anything, but I was thinking about doing like the story so far, 5 years in one log, highlights and journey so far.
That would be incredible, especially because you've been at it for so long, most, obviously, with the proliferation of the community lately, most the snowflakes now in the community are kind of just in their infancy, whereas you are like Grandpa Karamja only here, and you've been at it for, since World War II, basically. I think that would be great to see just a huge story so far progress log from you. I think I might have to piggyback off that idea as well. I kind of like that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, hey, I piggybacked off of your area restricted Ironman, so I might as well continue the theme. What's the best way for people to reach you?
In game, my private chat is always on whenever I'm on, and well, Reddit too. Not that often on it anymore, really, man. But yeah, in game, just.
Okay, sure. Karamja only clan chat.
Yep.
Great. Well, hey, thank you so much, Mr. Karamja only, for taking time out of your day to have me interview. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully, those of you listening at home have enjoyed this first rendition of the Snowflake Spotlight. On the next podcast, I'll be interviewing the new king of old school RuneScape YouTube himself, Mr. Settled, and his account, Swampletics, the Morytania locked Ultimate Ironman. Post your questions you may have for Settled below in the comments, and you may just have your question answered on the next episode. If you need more Snowflake Ironman content in your life and can't wait for episode 2, be sure to check out our subreddit, r/unique_ironman, which is the central hub for all things Snowflake Ironman related. A link will be down below in the description. The Snowflake Spotlight is a podcast series hosted by me, Caveman only, right here on my YouTube channel every other Friday. In the near future, I plan to research putting this series on other podcast platforms like iTunes and Spotify for your listening convenience. Special thanks to Karamja only for taking the time out of his day for this interview, to IG Designs for his background artwork, to you, the listener, for your support in making it this far, and once again, to OSRSBestinslot.com for sponsoring this podcast. Again, I really could not recommend this tool enough for all of your scaping needs. If you're trying to get your feet wet in the endgame PVM scene, there are so many free resources available on this platform to help you get started without feeling so overwhelmed. I've planned my beginning raids gear with the help of these tools, and I know there are exciting things coming down the pipeline for me and for this platform. Again, that's OSRSBestinslot.com, or just Google OSRS gear or like literally anything containing the word OSRS and something related to armor, and you'll probably find the site just fine. Anyway, that's enough shameless plug stuff for one episode. Thank you again for listening. I'll see you next time.